HPC meeting to order. Today is December 12th, 2024. All the commissioners are here except for Juan Rodriguez. And city people are Levi Hill and Fernanda Roveri. And I'm sorry, Spencer, what's your last name?
Argenbright, recording secretary Argenbright.
Okay, there you go. I'll write that down next time. Okay. Let's see, open the consent items.
I'm going to go ahead and remind the public how to participate in this meeting.
Yep.
And information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Thank you, Spencer. So the consent items, there's only one item on the agenda, and that's the minutes. Is there anyone in the audience want to talk about the minutes? Have any comments about minutes? How about commissioners? Yes, I do.
There are no attendees online with their hands raised, just
Okay,
for the record.
Pardon? I didn't hear him.
There's nobody online.
Oh, okay. And this is really maybe Spencer can help with this. When I read the minutes and see, it's just the second point there after public comments, commissioner comments. It says Commissioner O'Neill clarified comments I guess they're referring to O'Neill as they made about the Oak Grove neighborhood and ADUs. I don't know what that means. And so I looked back in my agenda for the last meeting, and that didn't help me understand it either. And I'm wondering if you make a statement, you can give some context to the comments so that it's more understandable. I don't know. Do you remember what you said?
I did. I think I implied earlier that the Oak Grove neighborhood ADUs that I was seeing or larger additions to buildings were perhaps historic, and they weren't all historic. So everything in that neighborhood is pretty old.
Yeah, and I believe those were additions to the minutes from the previous meeting.
Yes.
So it would have been changes made to July, I believe. And we've been modeling our minutes after city council, which do action minutes. So it's been a lot less context
but
and more.
As a commissioner, a little bit of context would help understand what the comment means. Why put the comment if it doesn't relate to anything and we have to go back?
Yeah.
July is quite a few months now. So I'm just asking if you could, if it's something like that, if it doesn't have any context, consider giving just a little so we know what you're talking about. All you've got to do is accept it as a comment.
So I can add a little bit. The city manager's office and the city clerk's office, they set the standards for writing our minutes for every board, commission, and committee meeting. And we have to follow the instructions from them to write all of our minutes. And so that's what we've been doing recently. We've been modeling our minutes after the city clerk's minute standards for minutes for the city council.
It's just something, if you want to mention to them, a commissioner stated it would be helpful to have a little more context so that we could understand what you're talking about.
We will mention it to them.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's all you.
We will bring it up to them.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
No.
Corrections? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the minutes for the August 8th meeting.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. So now is the time for anyone in the audience, if they would like to speak on something not on the agenda, you're welcome to come up and give your name And we'll listen to your comments. So is there anyone in the audience who wants to talk about something not on the agenda? Okay, anyone online?
There are no attendees online with their hands raised.
Okay, thanks. Right, so the first item, we're ready for that. Yeah. The first item up for discussion and approval is to consider 1078 West Franklin Street, application PA 240231 to amend Mills Act Maintenance Plan and Schedule, adopt a historic preservation report, and replace and reestablish deteriorated historic elements, alter fenestration, rebuild and expand the terrace, and add roof canopy. And the applicant is Rich Williams. And do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do have a staff report. Thank you. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. And for those of you who are not familiar with HPC proceedings, I just wanted to mention that first, we present our staff report and our staff recommendation to the commission. And then the applicant has an opportunity to give their own presentation. And then we open it up to public comments. After that, the committee can ask questions. And then only after all public comment is given can the committee give comments of their own and proceed to deliberation. So as Chair Rath mentioned, this project is 1078 West Franklin Street. And it is a historic permit for alterations and amendment to the Mills Act maintenance schedule and adoption of a historic preservation report. Staff's recommendation is that the HPC adopt 2 resolutions. One of the resolutions would adopt a historic preservation report and approve the following alterations: replace deteriorated original historic elements, add 1 new window, and add a roof canopy at the property with the exclusion of the terrace. And the second resolution would recommend that the City Council amend the property's Mills Act maintenance schedule. Lastly, because staff is not recommending approval of the terrace alterations, the commission should request more analysis regarding the terrace. A background of the property: this is named the William O. Stevens House, named after the original owner of the house. It has H2 zoning, which is our local city historic zoning designation. It received the Mills Act contract in 2019, which was recommended by the HPC to the City Council. It is located in the Upper Old Town neighborhood, which previously was called the Monterey Heights subdivision. And it was built in 1925 during the 1920s residential boom of Monterey. The home was built in the Spanish colonial revival style, as you can see to the right. This is a photo from 1993. According to the Historic Preservation Report, there are several character-defining features of the Spanish colonial revival style, of which this property retains all of them. It retains the low-pitched, gabled, multi-level, and red-tiled roof. It retains the stuccoed exterior wall cladding and has 1 or more prominent arched windows or doors. It has fixed encasement multi-pane wood windows, some with wrought iron grills. There is a wrought iron end deck railings, and it has an elaborate chimney top. The photo on the left is from 1993, and the one on the right is from 2007. So you can see how little the front facade has changed. This is a scene from Franklin Street. And this is again the photo from 2007 on the left, and then today on the right, you can again see how little the home has changed on the front facade. Staff has been working with the applicant since October. The applicant first applied for a historic permit for minor repairs to the property, and this was approved by staff in October 31st. The minor repairs included just repairs to the windows, stuccos, and doors, meaning replacing the epoxy that holds the glass of the windows to the wood, or repainting or sanding and refinishing. So not replacement. So staff is able to approve those minor repairs according to the historic preservation ordinance. Then the applicant applied for a permit amendment for alterations to the home. And alterations are not allowed to be approved by staff. They require the full Historic Preservation Commission review. And they require a historic preservation report. So before the alterations can be approved, a historic preservation report needs to be approved first. That outlines the alterations and the work required to maintain the property. And because this is a Mills Act property, it received the Mills Act contract in 2019. But because the alterations that are being proposed today did not make it into that Mills Act contract, we are requiring an amendment to that maintenance schedule to reflect the work that is being proposed. And so this all requires HPC review. And in order to approve the alterations, the HPC must find that the work is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic property. So you've seen, hopefully, the exhibits. The exhibits show that historic elements have deteriorated beyond repair, and some have been altered over the years. The proposed work would replace that which can no longer be repaired. For example, windows have been taken out, and instead of the original casement windows, some of them have been replaced with fixed windows. So that would require a replacement back to casement. And the proposed work also includes alterations not original to the building, and these are what I'm going to focus on today. The Historic Preservation Report, which is one of your exhibits in the packet, chose the treatment of rehabilitation for the property. And the reason that this standard was chosen is that rehabilitation allows the replacement of extensively deteriorated, damaged, or missing features. It makes the assumption that the property has undergone deterioration and that elements have been replaced over the years. And therefore, the standard allows replacement either using traditional or substitute materials, whatever is most closely available. Rehabilitation also makes possible an efficient contemporary use of the building through alterations and additions. So it recognizes that the new owner might need a different use of the building in certain areas. And so it allows alterations and additions to accomplish this contemporary use. And as I mentioned, the reason for amending the Mills Act maintenance schedule is to make sure that the work and expense required to make these alterations are documented in the Mills Act maintenance report. In addition to the expense and work required to preserve original historic features. And these are the alterations that are proposed that are not original to the original to the historic building. So on the left is the existing north elevation, and on the right, the applicant is proposing a picture window or a fixed window, 6 feet wide by 1 foot 8 inches high. And that would afford them a view. This property has ocean views, and they also want that ocean view in their primary bedroom, which is here. And it would also allow extra light to be in the bedroom. And so that's a change not original to the home. The second change, not original to the home, is to rebuild and expand the terrace and cut 2 arched openings to it. On the left side is the existing north elevation. I'm showing the terrace here as it is now. And the applicant would like to expand it 4 feet to the left, as I'm showing, and put the stairs here. So the expansion would basically be for the new stairs, and the existing space would all be used for having like furniture and patio there. And you can see here that this wall is closed, and the proposal is to open that wall with an arch. And beyond the arch, you can see 2 openings. They're not part of the arch, they're beyond, so they're in the wall behind. This shows the other side. So this was the north elevation, and this is the east elevation. And the east elevation, the request is to also provide an arch. So remove this window, which is not original to the building, and put an arch. And then beyond the arch, there are French doors that go out into the terrace. The exhibits show that this area has evidence that it was closed at some point. And so the applicant would like to reopen it. However, as I'll explain later, there is insufficient evidence that there used to be an arch there. And so I will get to that later. And as you can see, this is the expanded deck terrace with the new stairs. The applicant would also like to remove this stucco, which is believed to be encasing wrought iron railing. And so they would like to remove the stucco and reestablish that iron railing. This is a floor plan of the main level of the house, and shows the applicants saying that this was part of the terrace and now it's an enclosed porch, and they would like to open it up and again provide those 2 arches, so one here and then the other one here. And this is showing what the applicant would like to do. So get rid of that window, do an arch opening with iron railing. This shows clay tile, and the applicant believes that this used to be open and that the clay tile is evidence of that. This shows again that terrace, what was believed to be iron railing is covered with stucco. And you can see the outline of the stairs that are also encased in stucco. This just shows another view of the terrace. The third alteration that is not original to the building is a roof canopy to be on top of French doors that lead out onto the terrace. And the reason for this canopy is to prevent water from getting inside the house through the French doors. And so now I will go into the analysis. The HPC must make findings in order to approve a historic preservation report. And the findings are, one of them is which standard is being utilized for the property. And the recommended standard is rehabilitation because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. The second finding is that a written description of historic events must be analyzed in connection with the resource. So the report provides a written description of the building, and it mentions that it was one of the largest and most attractive at the time of the Spanish colonial revival style. Constructed in the Monterey Heights subdivision, one of the first homes built on Upper West Franklin. And its builder, Fred Rule, was a well-known local contractor who was responsible for most of the early construction work in Pebble Beach. The historic context and interpretive period is 1925, the year that the building was built. It was built as part of the 1920s residential building boom. And its architectural style is Spanish colonial revival, which was the most popular style during that decade. The architectural history of the resource is that the report differentiates between character-defining features and alterations that have been made over the years. And it makes recommendations for preserving historic features. However, it does not present enough evidence to establish with certainty that the original terrace had 2 arched openings, and therefore the work proposed to the terrace cannot be classified as a reestablishment of original historic features. So as conditioned in the resolution, the scope of work for the terrace shall be deleted from the historic preservation report. And lastly, the 5th finding for the historic preservation report is that it needs to include a program for preservation of the resource, including a statement of how the program meets the standards for rehabilitation. And again, it makes recommendations for preserving historic features using the standards for rehabilitation. However, as I mentioned, it does not present enough evidence to establish with certainty that the original terrace had 2 arched openings, and therefore this work cannot be performed as part of this permit. And I will go through now the consistency analysis with the standards for rehabilitation. And so I'm only going to focus on 2 of them because the project is consistent with all other ones. So the project is partly inconsistent with standard number 2 in that the project includes alterations to the terrace, but there's not enough evidence that the proposed treatment to the terrace, which is cutting those 2 arched openings, that is the correct treatment for this home. And there's also no evidence that this is the appropriate treatment for the Spanish colonial revival style. There's not enough analysis analyzing why the 2 arched openings and opening up the terrace is consistent with the standard for rehabilitation. And this is also the 3rd standard for rehabilitation that the project is inconsistent with, partly because, as I mentioned, because we don't know that the terrace used to have two arched openings, cutting the two openings could create a false sense of historical development. So as conditioned, the scope of work for the terrace shall be deleted from the plans. With that, staff recommends that the HPC adopt two resolutions. One, adopting the historic preservation report. Two, recommending that the city council amend the Millsack maintenance schedule, but remove any mention of the work for the terrace because it requires further analysis. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is here and I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Fernanda?
I have a question. If you, I'm trying to see which slide would be the best one to go back to. If the terrace was extended, would that put it in line with part of the building? I can't tell from the.
I
from
can
the
show
sketches.
that slide again. Okay, I wanted it to go to that slide. Okay, so here you can see the perimeter of the terrace, and on the right is the proposed. And the perimeter, like the usable part of the terrace would stay the same, except that now it would be the stairs. There would be new stairs, and that would be the expansion, 4 feet to allow for the new stairs.
Because the portion where the stairs were buried or filled in were 4 feet towards the building.
Right, so the existing stairs, which are stuccoed over, are right here where I'm pointing.
So it actually extends straight out from the line of the bedroom. But it isn't, this addition is not seen from the street. I went by it today to see if I could see it from the street. I can't see it from the street. Right.
Right.
Is that right?
No, it's not visible from the street.
It's not visible from the street. There was a section that was visible, and I think, I'm trying to figure out, that may extend from the bedroom. It's a little, it comes out a little bit from the wall, just maybe a foot or two, just sort of a little, and I think it shows in most of the pictures that it kind of just there's a little section that sticks out. And that is unusual. I mean, you'd think it would just be a straight wall, but for some reason they brought out one section at one time, and I suppose that was original. And you can see that clearly from the street because you have that line of sight, but you don't see anything at all about this deck, or it doesn't show at all. This completely blocks it.
Yes, the living area here blocks the terrace from view from the street.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Fernanda?
I have a question and I have a comment to start with on packet page 23 at the top, is a typo. It says upper W. I think they meant West Franklin. And it
Yes.
also got into one of your slides.
Yes.
Good old cut and
I-
paste.
I caught that.
So my question is, you're not a fan of the arched openings, but if I think the applicant called it the bar room or wet bar room, if that was originally terrace and those walls are not original, what would satisfy the city? If not arched openings, no openings, leave it with a non-original walls?
So the city was looking for analysis specific to the terrace, to the proposed work to the terrace. In the historic preservation report, there was no analysis specific to the terrace. It generally stated that the alterations are consistent with the standards, that the work would be differentiated from the old, that historic elements would be preserved, but it made very general statements. And staff was looking for specific information that proved or at least provided an analysis that that used to be an open area that was part of the terrace and that the proposed work to it is consistent with the character of the property, the Spanish colonial revival style, and is consistent with the standards for rehabilitation.
So you essentially need justification, crossing Ts and dotting Is and all of that. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Fernando? Go ahead.
Sort of the same subject. If there's no record of what was there, he seems to be stuck in a circle, right? You can't
Mhm.
modify it,
So
but he
There-
can store it.
we believe to have all the picture record. And although maybe we will never be able to show what was actually there, what was originally there, we are looking for the analysis that tells us, for example, that putting those two arched openings would be consistent with the style or would have been consistent with the style of the home when it was built in the 1920s. So that's what kind of analysis we're looking for. We're not looking for like something that says that it was definitely there, but
Okay.
something that was consistent with the style at the time.
Who could do that analysis?
A qualified architectural historian.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. To Fernando's point, not necessarily looking for anything to document or prove that that's original to the house. In fact, we have records in the original intensive survey that was prepared in the 90s for this property that clearly states the house is as constructed. So that was in the 90s. So if anything, we're fairly in the record presented, it's fairly certain that it wasn't original to the house. As Fernanda mentioned, what we're looking for is a thorough analysis that the treating it like an alteration meets all the Secretary of Interior standards. I think, as Fernanda mentioned, it's something that would need to be analyzed by a qualified architectural historian and meeting those standards, and that just wasn't done in the report that we've received so far.
Levi. So the report in 95, did you say?
I believe it is.
Said what was there in 95 was original?
It's
So we know that the
the
bar was original.
I don't know that we know that. We have an intensive survey that was prepared at the time that this property received its historic zoning. And there is a direct sentence in that report that says the exterior of the house appears as it did when it was constructed.
Well, that's very suspect because the stucco is different and the flooring in that section is different as well. And there's evidence that there's the terracotta
Then I would,
underneath the existing flooring in that area. So
then that draws question into the accuracy of the original intensive survey. And perhaps that's more of a requested, HBC should maybe request an additional intensive survey to be prepared.
I think that would be, take it out of this.
Just
Particular package.
visually, you can see evidence that that bar addition was an addition to the original design. It was not.
Then I think that would be calling into question the accuracy of the original intensive survey prepared for the property.
Occasionally, sometimes something just doesn't get written down correctly.
Mhm.
So then let's fall back onto the owner to get another evaluation of the property.
Well, that would be to the discretion of this committee.
Okay, no other questions?
I have a comment. If I'm just trying to think, are you suggesting that we would then tell the owner they have to pay for another survey when it's very clear that addition wasn't there, that they would need another survey to say that?
Well, I think that from a staff perspective, there seems to be an inaccuracy in the record, whether it's the original survey that was prepared for this property in the 90s that makes statements that were utilized to give this property its historic zoning in the first place. And then there's conflicting information that's been provided at this point. So I think that there is a conversation to be had about how that record gets corrected. And that typically would happen via an intensive survey prepared for the property. It seems like members of this commission think that there were alterations that were made to the property that were not documented in that original survey. If that's the feeling, then it seems like it would be prudent to have an accurate intensive survey for the property.
Would it be possible to just add to the survey that Kent Seavey already did? If he doesn't spell it out clearly there? So that I'm just trying to save a little money here. An extensive survey sounds like a larger amount of money.
Right. And we require intensive surveys for all properties that request historic zoning. This property received historic zoning in the 90s based on an intensive survey that this commission is now, or members of this commission are now alluding that was inaccurate, meaning we don't have an accurate intensive survey for the property.
I think we all agree that it's definitely a historic property. We're not in disagreement with the result of that survey. It's just a small portion of the entire house was changed, and that was omitted from the survey. But we agree that the property's historic. That's not in question.
We should save this till after
I
we
guess
hear
so.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any other questions, not comments?
Yeah, question of whether there's any permit documentation or plans or photographs from the original survey to indicate
There were not.
what was that at the time?
No.
Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I'm going to follow up after Gary Latas and see.
Okay.
Thank you.
And please state your name, although we know you.
Kent Seeley, preservation consultant, now in question. As to that initial study, that was to place it on the list for the city. Yes, you could see that there had been change over time, but the point there was not to do a standards review for work. It was simply to list it. So mea culpa, mea culpa. And I would open to that. This was a lady who purchased the property, wanted to be listed as soon as possible, and we went forward with that. Now that we're working on it in real seriousness, I'd like to read a little bit for you. Again, rehabilitation. This is rehabilitation, is the act or process of making possible a compatible use for a property through repair, alteration, and additions while preserving those portions or features which convey its historical, cultural, and architectural values. The rehabilitation standard acknowledges the need to alter or add to an historic residence to meet continuing or new uses while retaining the building's historic character. What we did that first time out was assured that the building's character was there. Some things had been done to it, but it was intact. The intention of the new owner has and is the retention and preservation of existing historic material and features that have been altered over time. It's a whole different cup of beer. In this instance, the features in questions are the stucco rolled exterior deck spaces off the east and south elevations, which, because of poor design and lack of normal maintenance over time, are continuing to cause damage to the historic building fabric, and it is causing structural weakening. It is his intention and goal to return these features as close to their original historic character as possible, to assure their continued use in a safe and stable condition, matching in kind as called by the standards, the repair park where possible. Most work will be done on altered secondary elevations as called for in the 2012 rehabilitation standards. To the extent feasible, only original windows and doors will be employed. Minor additions for building and safety will, as noted, match in kind existing features. The majority of the work to be done is in the areas that clearly show change over time. There is good evidence of original building materials and forms to employ an accurate model for the proposed rehabilitation work. At issue is the covered entrance way to the north deck, now enclosed, but clearly altered over time. An arched element is proposed to visually reflect the 8 other arched openings that inside and out along the building envelope visually suggest exterior and interior paths of travel. They're a guide to the inside, to the outside. And whether we find, and because we were not allowed to do exploration or research on it, that we don't know what was in that void. But arches would be appropriate under rehabilitation to carry on that concept of visual paths of travel. It is my professional opinion, having worked on this residence over many years, such an addition would be consistent with the character defining features still present on the building envelope. And I'm available for questions. And if you got a whip.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Seavey? Any questions?
No.
I have one question about
Yes, sir.
the canopy that you're adding.
Oh, the canopy matches the 2 canopies existing on the other side. It would be a match of that, the canopies on the other openings.
Okay.
In other words, it would match in kind existing features. It would not be conjectural in that sense. Does that help?
It does. Was there any evidence that there was a canopy there before?
Yes, on the other side of the building. If you have the photographs, you can see them.
Yeah, I remember what they looked like, but on that particular door, there was not a.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't see any kind of change in the stucco. But it makes sense because water right now is the principal problem with the good health of the building.
Thank you.
Geraldine,
Anybody
do you
else?
have a question?
Well, I was thinking the word canopy is the protection above a door.
That's from the direction of rain, wind coming in here. In other words, that carries the water out from the door. In other instances where we have window problems on that building, you'll see that the stucco rolls into the window. And that's caused the damage to those windows by leakage over time. So this is strictly a safety precaution, but it's consistent with the character of the building. It is not conjectural. It matches existing features from the original.
Thank you.
Anybody
Anything
else?
No.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Do we have any other presentations? No.
Good afternoon. I'm Terry Latassa, the project architect, and Rich Williams is also here. He's going to make a final comment. So we would like to request that the HPC approve the project as submitted. I do find the whole staff report discussion about the terrace and the arched openings a bit overly technocratic. I think anybody looking at this project will see this is on the secondary elevation. It's not visible from the street. It's this porch is 7 feet by 7 feet. It's a tiny element on the building. And whether it has arch openings or square openings, the main point to remember about this porch element is that it was an original part of the building. You can see the exterior stucco when you go inside that room. I don't know if you saw it on the site tour, but to me, that's evidence that that was an exterior porch because it has exterior stucco. You don't put exterior stucco on an interior space. So I think there's evidence plainly that that is an exterior porch and that we are rehabilitating it. And whether it has arched opening or square openings, I don't think it really matters. It's can't see it from the street. It's a secondary elevation. So we really hope that the committee could approve the project as submitted. I would like to, there's a bit of confusion in the staff report. The pages aren't numbered, but the part about alterations consistency, I think it's like the 5th page.
We
They
have
talk-
mostly numbers.
I'm sorry.
We-
Well, the copy I printed out doesn't have page numbers, but it's item number 2, and it's on the top of the page. The historic character is the first,
Sorry,
is how that sentence starts.
I'm still
Um,
listening.
I think, Chris,
And can you,
I think it may be page 18.
page 18?
This-
Okay. Thank
See, there's a 2 on the top, the historic character.
Yes.
And it's got
My
the staff,
copy that I printed doesn't have numbers.
it's got the staff response below that.
Okay.
Is it, am I talking, is it
Yeah, the historic character is the first.
right? And then staff.
So if you go down that whole paragraph below that, it says the original terrace had 2 arched openings. And I don't think, the terrace is the patio part, right? With the tile on the floor and now it has a stucco guardrail around it. We're proposing a wrought iron guardrail, but it's not the terrace that has 2 arch openings. That's a little bit incorrect. The terrace is the flat part in the guardrail. The porch is what we're proposing the 2 arch openings in. So, I mean, that's just semantic, but still that is a little bit confusing to read that there. The terrace has 2 arch openings. It's just not correct. So, as Kent said, we really would like to avoid another intensive survey on this. This is on the back of the building. We would really like to request that the HPC approve the project as submitted. It's a huge lot. We're proposing a little addition to this existing porch, and it really is for contemporary use because the existing porch isn't really big enough for a regular table and chair. It's just this little 4-foot addition will allow us to do that. And as I said, whether they're arched openings or square openings on this rehabilitation of this previous porch is not so important. The important thing is that we do fix that terrace because it is in horrible shape. It's just termites and dry rot ready to collapse. So we would really like to request that the HPC approve this project as submitted. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
My name is Rich Williams. I'm the homeowner there at 1078 West Franklin. I had the pleasure of meeting, I think, all of the committee members that are in attendance tonight there on Monday for the little field trip, which I thought was very informative. I want to thank Fernanda. Really interesting. I did not know what the Mills Act was. I was looking at this home. It became like a love interest. This beautiful Spanish revival house on the hill with this incredible architecture and flow. And I called the city building department to kind of inquire, check permit history, et cetera, but they were busy, but I got planning and I got this lady. And she was extremely helpful. She said, you do know the house is in the Mills Act. You would probably want to go ahead and research that. So she opened the door to this whole process. And I thank her very much for her time and diligence and really being thorough throughout this whole process for me. I've learned a lot from these 2 gentlemen. It's like a wheel that gets running away from you. It's like a cart with full speed ahead. These guys have taught me a lot, and I couldn't have done this without them. I want to get right down to it. I have a passion for this. I think the house, I'm lucky to have this house. It's lucky to have me. To me, ultimately, aside from all the mechanics and the nuts and bolts of this whole thing, it's really simple. This is an art project. It's a beautiful, beautiful home, a once in a lifetime opportunity to refurbish and rehab a house in the area in which I grew up. There's a couple visual aids I'd like to go straight to, and I'd like to see if I could ask Fernanda to bring up the video. There's a video that was made available to you guys, which is a thorough documentary of the proposed initiatives, but there's a video I took 2 weeks ago, 2 a.m. Pardon me? Yeah, that one. It's very brief. So what this is this is the terrace in question, and this is the underside of the terrace. Play it, please. So this is not my first rodeo. In my due diligence in looking into this house and inspecting the elements of it, I knew what I was up against as it relates to this terrace. I knew it was a major, major issue. And quite frankly, the terrace is there, but it has to be rebuilt. Whether it gets bumped out 4 feet or it doesn't, it still needs to be rebuilt. It's failing. The main girders of the home have incredible dry rot. And I think I showed those to you the other evening. These are main structural timbers that are holding up that whole eastern wall. One way or another, give me the extra 4 feet. Don't pass it because there's not arches, even though there's 8 arches in the home. This terrace has to be addressed because it's infecting the structural integrity of the house. I know enough to tell you that I really should have that wall and that basement shored up. I didn't want anyone going under that terrace the other night for a reason. Because every floor joist in there is rotten and likely over time will eventually collapse. If you could go into I have a very brief presentation. These arches, really kind of a critical element of the Spanish Revival architecture.
Because of the settlement and structural,
A longer video.
the structurally compromised framing members underneath this wall, these sculptor drains are actually now pointing the opposite direction, which is allowing water to build up onto
Pretty
this
simple. There was a
enclosed deck.
stairway
and
down to the
cause further
garden in this
decay.
home. At some point in time, someone decided to, this isn't the image, but that's all right. The stairway is right there, actually. You can see the risers and the treads. And someone probably covered over those stairs and extended the terrace because at that mid-century, you would have had an incredible view from the first level of the Monterey Bay. And now there's a considerable amount of overgrowth from oaks and whatnot. That's all right.
What are the chances?
There we go. Simple. This is just a few slides.
Yeah. Oh,
If you
I
can't get it up,
I
that's
just
not a problem.
barely saw it. I got home.
So the arches, and briefly, I want to speak of these arches. They're a major, major aesthetic form component of the composition of this particular home, as was many, many Spanish Revival homes in this period of architecture. This is the front. The pedestrian gate has an arch. If you could forward, please. This is the portico. This is the entrance to the house. You walk through a portico arch, then you have an arch top door. There's the other side of the door. If you could scroll down, please, Fernanda. This is one of the passages to the second story arch, and scroll down if you would. Archway to the living area. Archway, that's the same slide. If you go down one more. The arches are very, very, very common throughout. And all I'm looking for here is continuity. And when I met Terry, Terry saw that vision. This little bar that was added in sometime probably the mid-century was added component of a open terrace, there is dissimilar flooring, there's dissimilar stucco, there's evidence of the terracotta, the tile deck that was in this portion right here. If you see here, super clear that this was once. Can't blow it up, but I'd be happy to share it with you. This terracotta tile here, this same terracotta matches the entombed stairwell. At some point in time, it might have been McKeever, the second owner. Close that into me. There's a picture of the wet bar if you scroll down. I had to take this out because it was waterlogged. And why it's waterlogged is because the roof as it meets the main residence at this point has no flashing, just terrace, doesn't have any flashing. And this fills with water. So this was the wet bar in there. If you could slide down one more, Fernanda. This is the stucco that Terry Latassa spoke of just a moment ago. This is stucco on the interior of the home. You're seeing the frame there for the French doors that would have led out to that portion of the covered terrace. Those French doors are intact. They're in the basement. I plan to rehab those and put them right back there. Well, whether this is a square opening to lead to this terrace or it's an arched opening, do I care? Of course I do. But do I want to get this terrace buttoned up and keep the rain out of this beautiful old home? I absolutely need to. There's wants and needs, and a lot of this falls into the need category. Bumping this terrace out 4 feet, do I have to do it? I absolutely don't have to. Would it make greater function and projection from the wall so you could actually have a table there? It would be great. And this was Terry's idea, and it's a very good idea. But again, this is a secondary elevation. My neighbors on to the right don't even see this. There's so many oaks on this property. I would hope that this gets approved as presented. I understand there's a process, and I'm willing to go along for the ride, but I just want people to be reasonable. And I want to see if you can somehow put yourself in this situation, waking up at 3 a.m. to this complete saturation of rainfall into a failing terrace, knowing you have to do something with it. You got to do it soon. And that's what I hope you guys take into consideration. I thank you for your time. I'm open to any questions from anybody.
I have one question, and it's not going to sway me either way, but the original stairs, are you going to leave those and then build the staircase on the outside? Or are you going to take them out?
The stairs have to go. The stairs have lost all their structural components. They're just really a skeleton of what once was a terracotta staircase up to that terrace.
Okay, I'm just curious.
At the bare minimum, I have to put them back in the same spot. Would I like to put them where we propose? I absolutely would.
Mhm.
It would give greater use of that space. But those stairs, really nothing in the framing of that substructure of that said terrace can be kept. It literally will go down to the stem wall, the bare foundation, because there's so much rot there. I have foamed it and caulked it the best I can in my abilities, but water is powerful. And water is sitting in a cauldron there in that terrace, and it builds up because these sculptor drains are now pointing the wrong direction from settlement. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want us to pause before we make sure the Zoom call is still going.
Yeah.
Because I think you may have closed out the Zoom call. So Spencer, can we rejoin?
So Linda?
We just need to pause the meeting for just a moment.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Were you on the commission when we were all sent home after a rat ate through the? No.
Was it the video that they sent today? It was a video sent to us.
No, is that isn't the one he just?
No.
Oh, no, I didn't see that
It was
one.
kind of a video.
I'm sorry, guys. We should probably not be discussing because we're not sure if the public meeting is there. I'm sorry. We could just pause for just a moment. We need to see the call. There we go. Okay, thank you. We can resume.
Okay,
Linda, you had another question?
I do, but it's on the Mills Act revision, so I'd like to open it up to other questions about the project first, and then I'll ask my question.
Sure.
Any other questions about
I
the
just
project?
had a comment. I wanted to thank you for the video. I had it scooted in this afternoon just before the meeting and had time to look at it, and
This was the
it
longer
really
video.
helped put where those archways were and my mind.
Thank you. And this is a longer video that the commission has access to that was originally given to Fernanda as a way to kind of digitally document and explain things. She's since been out to the property a couple of times. Chris Schmidt has as well. And I'm not creating anything out of thin air. This is all, if there weren't 8 arches in this home and arches through passageways, I would think that I didn't have much to stand on. But anyhow, I'd like some other questions if there is some.
Any other questions on the project itself?
No.
So on,
The lack of questions doesn't mean
Sure.
we aren't interested, but the video, the field trip, and the other explanations have been very, very good at explaining it to us.
Thank you.
Thank
It's,
you, Bill.
You know, Kent's 93 report, 94 report. Oh, that was the other thing in your slide you had it down as 2019 because it went into the Mills Act contract in 1994.
It was zoned
Zoned in 94.
historic
Yes.
in 94 or 95, and then the Mills Act contract was entered into in 2019.
Got it. Got it. Understood. Real quick, Kent's original Phase 2 historic from 1994. He had some things in there that really resonated with me early on, and they still do. He said something very simple. He says, this home evokes a strong sense of time and place, and it truly does. This home, as you saw, because you saw the interior and the exterior, feels relatively unaltered, given the fact that it's been sitting there on that plat of dirt for 100 years. And really all I want to do is bring it back to its glory. There's some windows hidden behind a wall there in the primary suite, as I showed you. There's no more ingress and egress from that dining room out to this terrace. And even if that terrace stays in its same form, it would be nice to be able to have passageways instead of a wet bar. That wet bar served someone well, but it was full of water and damage from the poor flashing that exists there. This parapet wall, real quick, that's existing on the terrace, that extended that terrace over the stairwell, gave someone at some point in time great function in having that extra space, but now it's acting as a huge detriment to the house in that these sculpture drains, which are now facing towards the house, allow water to fill into this terrace. It's like a little swimming pool. And all that water creates a lot of pressure and it's got to find a way out. And it's finding its way into that terrace, into that covered section where there is, where the wet bar was added. So I ask you guys, please, to understand where I'm coming from on this as a person that's living there and do what you feel is right architecturally. And based on everything that Kent and Terry have presented and I have presented, what makes the most sense. And if, like I said, if the house didn't have all these arches, and I want to add arch terraces, it's not an Eichler from mid-century. It's an old Spanish revival house, 100 years old, and it's full of arches. They're a major critical component of the aesthetic and form. Thank you very much.
oh, wait, I think Julie has a question
Yeah,
and I still have
I
one.
think just a quick question, kind of in the spirit of documentation.
Sure.
Is there any place on the plans itself or written in the window door schedule or in the application that outlines specifically what in-kind means as far as window replacement? Is the material specified? I know for some of the windows, the dimensions are provided, but as far as the material,
Yes.
the glazing.
Yes. So I've been made aware, and please correct me, Kent, if I trip up here, that in-kind means similar function as far as operability. These are all French casement outswing windows with the exception of the 2 in the foyer area. We talked about this the other night as far as glazing. There is a considerable amount of the original wavy glass in the home, probably 80% of the original wavy glass is there. I'm going to keep that. Where these windows have to be replaced, they'll be built with the exacting level of OG trim profile. I've already sourced a builder up in Alameda that I've used on another project that's going to build these windows. So my goal would be to have these windows look identical in form and contour.
But it's not documented on
Yeah.
the plans or on the window schedule as far as what they're going to be.
It is
packaging.
documented in my initiatives as it relates to the windows. I lay out in there the species of wood.
Okay, I
Yeah.
It would be great to see where that is.
Yeah,
Okay.
the size of the windows, the,
Window schedule has. window-
yes, there
it-
should, there's also a supporting paragraph there. That should all be there and I can make that available if you can't find it. there.
Okay.
But yes, the idea is to mimic almost in an exacting sense, the same functionality of the window and aesthetic.
Yeah, it'd be good to see in the staff report where it says that. So that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So on the, we're approving the change in the maintenance plan too, is that correct?
Mhm.
So on that, I just had a couple questions. You have on electrical, 1,200 a year for every year. What does that include?
I'm sorry, Linda, could you repeat
On-
that?
On your 10-year maintenance plan,
Yes.
you have under electrical, you have $1,200 for every year.
I don't know, is that a evaluation figure that was previously assigned to the Mills Act maintenance schedule? It might have been.
From the previous owners.
I think that was a previous ownership came up with that valuation.
This is the 2019. That would explain the very low figure.
Okay, all right, well, disregard then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a question then. Do we have the current?
This is what we approved a few years.
I know,
Yeah.
but do we have if we're approving a new one, wouldn't we have a new one?
I think it just changes 2025. That's my read of that.
Oh, I see.
But that would come up with the next motion, right? But the two motions.
So I guess you're right. It has 2025, 26, 27, but you're saying this is the old one, but we don't know what the new one is.
If the next exhibit A after the maintenance plan has all the items as far as what is proposed, and they all fall under the 2025 year. So correct me if I'm wrong,
Page 79.
Fernanda, I think that column of 2025 maybe was updated to reflect that. No?
No, but this is the.
Are you talking about the original maintenance plan or the proposed?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's original or, so it's basically on PDF, page 85 and PDF page 86, exhibit. It's exhibit A, attachment 3, and then the following exhibit A, which is the amendment, proposed initiatives.
Oh, here.
Yes, I see it.
So is the maintenance plan with the grid for the year 2025, is that the original maintenance plan or is that amended to reflect dollar amounts in the exhibit A?
So
Is it-
the original maintenance plan is packet page 85,
Yeah,
and that is proposed to stay as is. And then the next page, packet pages 86, 87, and 88 are additions to the maintenance schedule.
okay, so we're not getting a revised grid, basically. It doesn't supplement this. It's just
It-
written text does.
It supplements it in that the proposed amendments to the schedule,
Mhm.
so packet pages 86 through 88, those are one-time fixes.
Yeah.
So that's why they weren't made into a grid format.
Yeah.
Because they were one-time work and it says that it would be completed December 31st, 2025.
So those are the only changes to the grid. Okay. Okay, that makes sense then. All right, any other questions?
Commissioner Barlow, would you like me to talk about the window replacements in kind?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably raise it as a comment, but yeah, I mean, I think in general, it'd be helpful to have that be documented. So is it in the staff report?
It's in the packet page 78. There are 3 bullet points about windows and doors. And it says that the original windows are wood windows.
Yeah.
And the work would be to replace them. Replace the ones that have deteriorated beyond repair. It may not specifically say replace with wood, but that could be added by the commission.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more detail I could submit it as an addendum or a writer in the mill that's going to be building the windows.
Mhm.
And again, we're talking about, I think, 5 windows here out of 40 windows.
Yeah.
There's an immense amount of rehabilitation that I'm starting on now. That is it's absolutely an immense amount of work restoring these old windows. These are mortise and tenon. These are just 6 windows, if you include the picture window, that will be built new like kind to match what's there. The rest of these windows under the mill's maintenance agreement will be rehabilitated, rehab in place. Thank you, Ms. Sloan.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have any? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great presentation.
Planning staff, thank you.
And do we have any public comments? Anyone online who would like?
I do not see anyone online, but I will go ahead and remind the public how to participate. And information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. I still see no attendees with their hands raised, though.
Okay, so we're going to close the public comments and we'll move on to the commission comments.
The people in the audience,
We
you know,
have,
this is your chance.
I already asked them.
Yeah, I know. I just wondered if they knew that's who you were talking about.
Public
I
comment.
know.
Yeah, that's the
Nobody has
audience.
spoken. Yeah.
Thank you, Geraldine. Julie, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. First of all, thank you, Fernanda, for the very detailed staff report and raising the questions that I think we all need to discuss here in an open forum. I thought it was very helpful and accurate and spot on for this project. And thank you, Mr. Williams, for especially for the site visit on Monday. And you know, your passion for this house is very evident. And I think the city's lucky to have you at the helm of repairing this house and having it be, you know, standing for another 100 years. So that's hopefully, I think it's phenomenal. So I'm going to just probably focus on a couple things. I mean, the terrace in particular, because that seems where most of the discussion is. I think it's very clear that this area has been altered over the past 100 years. We don't know exactly when it was, you know, when the porch, when the bar was built out, or when the stairs were encased. It's not visible from the street. And I think the repair with the additional 4 feet for the stairs is reasonable, and it falls within the rehabilitation definition. Regarding the archways, I think there's enough precedence even on the front facade to think that archways would be the appropriate architectural detail at this rear part of the entrance, and it's not again not something that I think we should, you know, be too concerned about being not visible at all from the street. And again, we don't know what was there previously, so there's no real. We're probably not going to be able to have enough documentation to you know, see if it you know, if it wouldn't meet some of the sectarian standards. I mean, frankly, there's enough precedence in the front facade with the front entranceway of that being arch, so I'm comfortable proceeding that way. The one thing I did allude to regarding the replacement and rehabilitation of windows, I think we need to be more specific on the plans or in a supplemental kind of, you know, sheet
Report?
describing, not a report, just with your building permit application to help staff when they're going through and approving this or finalizing this when this is constructed. Like, I think the dimensions are there in the window schedule. So I think that's something that can be traceable and documented. But as far as the glazing and the type of wood, we just need to have a complete record of that for those 6 windows that are being replaced.
I'm sorry, the public hearing is now closed, so there shall not be any dialogue between the public and the
So yeah, I just think that maybe maybe it lives somewhere in some of the application materials, but it should be, you know, it should be helpful, and it should be something that we can go see, you know, later and have it be documented what was approved and why. So With those modifications, I think I could approve the project as proposed with the terrace included.
Okay, Kathy, do you have anything?
I couldn't add anything better than what Julie just said. I totally agree with you.
And I agree with Julie and Kathy too.
Was that a motion?
No,
No, not
we're
yet.
just
Yeah.
making comments right now.
Comments.
Yeah.
I support the arched windows and all the other proposals. However, it seems a simple thing to amend the report, the historic report, for the justification for the arched openings. It's obvious to all of us, but we have to look down the line of someone else reading this in 50 years. Well, why did they do that? And I just think it would be a simple thing to add a paragraph of what makes it compatible. What makes it, I mean, it's pretty obvious to those of us who are looking at it, but context is everything. And the other thing, Kent, 30 years ago, when you did this the first time, maybe the stucco hadn't fallen away where the tiles are in that old section. So different, I would support the, with maybe an amendment or a paragraph just justifying the arches.
Okay, Geraldine?
I was impressed enough with what Julie said to think maybe it could be a motion, but I do support it. She said it well, and I thank Carol for remembering the part about why have to pay for a brand new report when maybe we could add that section onto an amendment or additional section onto the report we have. I can see 1995, the pressure to get our list of potential buildings that we would want to preserve, and missing a detail here and there shouldn't hurt this project from moving forward. Thanks.
Okay, William?
Yeah, the condition of the terrace it requires immediate attention, and I think it's pointless to try and dither around to see if we can document something to justify his design. I think it's good. It fits. It's in keeping. You know, it fits with the rehabilitation, and it really needs to proceed.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I could make a motion.
Yeah.
I move to approve the proposed project initiatives at 1078 West Franklin Street to also include the terrace elements with the arched patio. And it sounds like we want to have just for documentation, the historian to address the arched compatibility in the rehabilitation component that could be put into the record for the site. It doesn't require us to see that again.
I'm happy to be the second, but it's not an arched patio, right? It's
I'm sorry, the
arch openings
arch openings on the
onto the
terrace.
patio. Onto the
Yes.
terrace.
So we also need to make a motion including the report and the Mills Act
The Mills maintenance schedule.
maintenance
Oh, yeah.
schedule.
Is
Yeah.
that a second?
Can you
one?
include those?
Yes, I'm including those as noted.
Okay, so approving the report as written?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and the Mills Act.
Approving the report as written with the amendment to clarify the archways and approving the project at 1078.
Any second?
Can you clarify what your motion is regarding the Millsack maintenance schedule amendment? Staff's recommendation is to recommend that the city council amend the Millsack maintenance schedule.
Second part. of it.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. We are recommending that we amend the Mills Act maintenance schedule to the city council for approval.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Congratulations, Mr. Williams. you're good to go. And you may, let's see,
That is appealable to the planning commission within 10 days with forms available online and in the planning office.
I was just gonna say that.
With all of the, I have something, with all of the additions and changes, should we read that? Just read it to be sure we got it all? You got everything? Okay, that's great.
Okay. The next item is to consider 1221 Roosevelt Street, application HP 240201 to remove the property from the Monterey Upper Old Town Historic Context Statement and Reconnaissance Survey List. The applicant is Delacido Angela Maria de Pava. I hope I said that right. And do we have a city report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Rath and Commissioners. My name is Christy Sabdo, Principal Planner with the City of Monterey. I'll be covering 1221 Roosevelt Street, Historic Permit Application HP 240201. The recommendation is that the Historic Preservation Commission remove the property from the Upper Old Town Reconnaissance Survey. As background, the property is in the Upper Old Town neighborhood. The zoning is R1, and the general plan land use designation is low density residential. It's a single family residence constructed in 1933. The residence is rectangular in shape with a moderately sloping gable roof clad with asphalt shingles and a small lattice or vertical board vent below the peak of each gable. The residence was converted to a duplex before 1940. The property was originally built with a garage or shed on the southwest corner of the parcel, which has been demolished. I'm going to list some of the character defining features that were noted in the intensive survey. On the second floor, wooden 3 lights over 1 light, you can see here, were craftsman style double hung windows, and left window features 2 green painted wood shutters in this location with diamond shape cut into each shutter. On the first level, 2 wooden and divided light garage style doors with replaced wood windows with aluminum slider and fixed or single pane plate glass windows. On the west elevation, traveled stucco exterior wall cladding, clay brick chimney on the west facing elevation that was added after 1962, a rebuilt wooden stairway. All entry doors on the house have been replaced except for 1 ground floor entry door on the west elevation. All entry doors on the house have been replaced, kind of what I just said, sorry, except for 1 ground floor entry door on the west elevation. On the east and north elevation, you could see that there's been a window that was replaced on the 2nd story and a door added for on the ground floor for a rental. I'm going to list the alterations that have occurred since 1933. The conversion of the lower floor to a rental unit. On the east elevation, replacement of a pair of wood sash windows with aluminum sash windows circa 1960s, 1970s. Replacement of a wood sash window on the upper floor kitchen with a fixed plate glass window circa 1960s, 1970s. On the west elevation, construction of a brick chimney circa 1960s, and the stairs were rebuilt. On the south elevation, replacement of all the windows on the south elevation with aluminum slider windows on the ground floor. A large picture window on the 2nd story that likely required enlarging the original opening. The subject property was not formally evaluated in the Upper Old Town Reconnaissance Survey. It was listed as 7R, which means it was identified in the reconnaissance level survey as not formally evaluated. An application was filed by the property owner on September 18th, 2024 to remove the property from the Upper Old Town Reconnaissance Survey. In order to do that, it was required that intensive survey be prepared per the Monterey City Code. An architectural historian, Dana Supernowitz, with Historic Resource Associates, prepared that intensive survey and concluded that the residence does not individually or collectively represent an important example of the architectural subtypes found locally in the Upper Old Town neighborhood or the Monterey Heights tract, nor does it retain adequate integrity to be eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places or the California Register of Historic Resources, and should be removed from the list of potentially historic properties maintained by the City of Monterey. I'm going to go through the findings. So the national and state criteria for events, patterns, and trends, the intensive survey states that no documentation has been found to suggest that the property represents or is associated with an event or events of significance in the history of Monterey. Regarding national and state criteria for persons, the intensive survey states that no evidence has been found to suggest that the property is associated with a person or persons of significance in the history of Monterey. Regarding national and state criteria regarding design and construction, the intensive survey states, from a design or architectural perspective, the house is difficult to categorize. Although its remaining circa 1930s windows reflect late craftsman style architecture, while the massing of the house is clearly symmetrical, reflecting a simple rectangle, the home's fenestration is asymmetric and rather awkward with a wide variety of window sizes and shapes, perhaps due to the conversion of the ground floor into a rental. In terms of the broader neighborhood, the house is somewhat of an anomaly, with most of the pre-1940 homes having distinctive architectural styles ranging from late Victorian craftsman bungalows, Spanish Revival, Mediterranean, and English cottage revival. The residence has diminished integrity, does not represent an important example of architectural styles represented in the Upper Old Town neighborhood, nor does it represent the work of a master craftsman or architect of significance in the history of Monterey. National and state criteria regarding important information of prehistory and history. The intensive survey states that the subject property does not have the potential to possess scientific information. I'm going to go over the 7 aspects of integrity. The location is the place where the historic property was constructed or the place where the historic event occurred. Yes, the subject property retains integrity of location. The residence has not been moved or relocated. Setting is the physical environment of a historic property. Yes, the setting of the subject property remains largely intact as it was when constructed, although the original detached garage has been demolished. Design is the combination of elements that create the form, plan, space, structure, and style of a property. No, since its construction, original aspects of its design have been altered. Those alterations are consequential to the property's overall integrity. For example, the replacement of windows and doors with the contemporary and non-compatible materials has altered one of the residence's significant character-defining features. Recent rehabilitation and alterations to the lower floor of the residence have increased the loss of important original design elements, leading to the conclusion that the subject property no longer retains integrity of design. In summary, the subject property does not reflect a design that exhibits an important architectural character representative of the surrounding neighborhood. 4, materials are the physical elements that are combined or deposited during a particular period of time and in a particular pattern or configuration to form a historic property. No, loss of original materials on the residence has decreased the historic integrity of its overall design, and replacement or alterations of original materials, such as windows and doors, including the recent alterations to the ground floor, have resulted in lack of material integrity. Workmanship is the physical evidence of the crafts of a particular culture of people during any given period in history or prehistory. No, the workmanship of the residence was of marginal quality when constructed. Alterations since its construction, including converting the lower floor to a rental, and in the more recent past, adding and replacing windows with non-compatible or historically sympathetic materials, has led to diminished integrity. As previously noted, recent rehabilitation of the lower floor of the residence has only added to the property's lack of integrity in regards to workmanship. Feeling is a property's expression of the aesthetic or historic sense of a particular period of time. No, cumulative alterations to the residence since its original construction, as described above, has led to a loss of integrity of feeling in regards to its original construction and design. 7, association is the direct link between an important historic event or person and a historic property. No, historic research has not provided evidence that the home reflects a significant historic event or person in the history of Monterey or the neighborhood in which the home was constructed. The historic resource assessment concludes that the residents of 1221 Roosevelt Street does not individually or collectively represent an important example of the architectural subtypes found in the Upper Old Town neighborhood or the Monterey Heights tract, nor does it retain adequate integrity to convey its historical significance. Consequently, the subject property does not appear to have a significant resource or to be a significant resource per the state or national criteria. The properties are not historic resources as defined by CEQA either. Staff recommends that the Historic Preservation Commission remove the property from the Upper Old Town Reconnaissance Survey. Staff's available for questions, and also the property owner and architectural historian is here. Do you have any questions?
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Julie?
I do, yeah. Thanks, Christy, for the
Sure.
presentation. Very helpful. What open permits are there right now for the property?
Open permits. I think there's a building permit
Or do you know what it's
for the property. I would have to review that. I don't recall.
That may be a question we can give to the applicant,
Okay.
and they're
Yeah.
probably aware.
Yeah.
I was going to ask the same thing because when I drove by, I don't know if you can see it,
Mhm.
but it's got a bunch of material wrapped around the whole property
Right.
Mhm.
with it's white with blue energy
Sure.
wrap
It's a vapor barrier.
Yeah, I know that
for barrier.
I know that they did an architectural review permit application recently, and I believe they're undergoing a building permit. I just honestly can't remember what it was for. I can look that up now, or we can ask the property owner, who's probably more familiar with it.
Carol?
The garages, I'm guessing, are not used as a garage anymore. The two garage doors, is that living space in there, or what's behind the garage doors?
That would be a good question for the property owner.
I pulled up the permits active for this property, if you'd like to hear
Sure. go ahead.
from this year. It says JADU, convert lower floor to 500 square foot ADU and 100 square foot utility room. Remodel upper floor, interior only, replace windows and doors. The second one is demolition for pending JADU construction. The third one is construct driveway to city standards. And the fourth one is temporary power for construction.
So there's a demolition permit.
No, just interior, sounds like, right?
Demolition for
Right.
pending JADU construction, which is JADUs are only allowed to be converted from existing living space. So I assume that it's an interior
Oh, okay.
demolition.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And would the applicant like to say anything?
Hello, my name is Angela Delicado. I'm the owner. First of all, I don't know. Well, first of all, I want to say that I didn't know Monterey, and as I'm Spanish, raised in Spain in a small village, when I visit Monterey, I just said I would love to live here because remind me my childhood with when my dad raised me. So I really love the architectural. I love the village. I love the people. I love the environment. I saw this little house, and let's say that it's not like beautiful. It was not like beautiful because it's very like a Lego. I call it like a square Lego. Doesn't have like the Spanish that I'm used to, the architectural Spanish. But I don't know, I felt really at home, and I like it. And what I want to say is the house has been a huge surprise because a lot of structural problems, a lot of I had a problem with the foundation. I have a problem with the footing. I have a problem with the slab, termites, infiltration, adding up, not just time, permits, but also money. I've been changing I don't know if changing is the correct one, but replacing for what is already like the windows. I'm replacing the windows because the windows were like only also a single panel and was completely rotten, the wood. But I like the style with the lids, the grid. So I really like to keep like this little cabin, I call it cabin, still keeping the style. But it has been a little bit complex for me to get this house functionally and beautiful at the same time, that trying to match with the restrictions of the historical limitations. The house is was a duplex. They sold me like a duplex, and I couldn't have a duplex in the R1 zone. I think it's like that. So the suggestion was an JDU or ADU, and this is why I'm converting a portion of the lower floor like a JDU for the house. And this is why one of the two garage doors that they are not garage, I mean, the car doesn't fit. Right. And was all the power was like with was an old power. So my car will not fit at all. And the other one had been converted already. So it was like the garage door, but it was like a living room. So that garage door on the left will be the main door for the JDU. And the permit for the demolition, what happened is I bought the house in August last year, and I had some situations with the architect, and what happened, the things really get slowed down on the process. So my contractor said we can ask for a permit to speed up the demolition only of the slab, because it's gonna take me at least 1 month to go through that, just the slab. And this is why I applied while we were reviewing the window schedule. I applied to have this temporary approval for the demolition only of the slab. I don't know if I answered. Okay.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Nope.
It's good.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And now open up to public comments.
There are no attendees online with their hands raised.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dana Sapernowitz. I'm an architectural historian. I'm also an archaeologist. I wear two hats. And I am the gentleman that was helping Angela make the determination whether the house is significant as a resource. So I just want to make a couple of general comments. The first was the initial study that was done was very scant, as you might know if you looked at it. I mean, it really didn't delve into the house. I don't think it looked at it adequately in terms of what changes had occurred, didn't really look at past history of alterations, ownership, and all that. So that's what I did. I wanted to find out who owned the house, when the house was built, to verify that, to find out, what changes have occurred, which is pretty straightforward when you look at permits. I also looked at the Sanborn fire maps, which are a pretty standard thing for architectural historians to look at, and notice things that were missing. The garage, the original detached garage is gone. The garages that were built, well, number one, this is built in 1933. So this was the Depression, the Great Depression. So it's not that unusual that houses were built, perhaps even without a architect, which I think may be the case, owner-builder kind of situation. And I think that's probably the case here. It's a symmetrical form. It's basically a box, a rectangle, and with windows that are very asymmetric and windows that have been altered today, doors that have been added and so forth. The two garage doors facing the front are not that unusual, but it's odd because there was a pine tree there, and they weren't functional as garages. And they'd also had another garage, so I'm not sure the purpose of that. And as was stated, it became a rental unit. So the garage was, part of it was a rental. They added a door as a second unit in the back, and then the part of it was maybe a storage facility for tools or equipment and so forth. The owners, the original owners didn't have the home very long. They sold it, they moved on to another house. Just a general observation on my part, I was fortunate to own a house for 4 years on Franklin, off Cypress, very close to the house that you just mentioned. It was a Craftsman built in 1924, lovely location, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't own it anymore, but it was a nice house. And I had the opportunity to walk the streets and talk to people and all that. So I was able, at that point in time to really observe the houses and what homes had character, defining features, architecturally speaking, Spanish Revival, Victorian, English Revival, there's Craftsman, of course. And then there was, let's say, Monterey style houses that were there that are very interesting. So.
Sorry, that's the end of the 3 minutes.
Okay. But anyways, the bottom line is that just because.
Sorry, that's the end of the 3 minute
Was that
period.
the end of-
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Do we, can Linda say something?
Can we add a minute?
It's to the discretion of the chair.
Would you like to speak for one more minute?
Seems a little harsh.
So what I was getting at is that there are clearly homes in that neighborhood that stand out. One of them you just saw. And there are other houses that are somewhat nondescript, and there's infill, as you probably know, built in the 60s and 70s. That is sort of nondescript. This one is sort of an odd duck because it almost looks like something built in the 60s, but I know it was built in the 30s, and then there were changes made to it. I did not feel that it had the character defining features that I felt were important for that neighborhood, put it that way. And as I was getting at before, was that just because it's an old house doesn't mean it's a significant house architecturally. And I think this one, in my opinion, is not architecturally significant. And then it has obviously changes, and now it's become a JDU on the lower floor. So you take it all together and cumulatively, and the loss of the detached garage, I didn't think was a significant property under SECO or the National Register. Any questions?
No, thank you very much. So now I'm opening up to public comments. Would anyone in the audience like to make a comment? Nope. Anybody online?
There are still no attendees online with their hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comments and open it up to commission comments. Let's start. Do you want to start, William?
I don't see anything in this house worth keeping it on the list.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Carolyn?
I too live what we call Spaghetti Hill, and it is a variety of different houses, and I like the fact that there's a variety of different houses, but they all aren't historic or have characteristics that meet the criteria. So I'm fine with the report and taking it off, and it will help facilitate what they want to do in their house, not to have to conform to the standards that we have for historic houses.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, I'm for taking it off. It doesn't probably fit anything in the context statement for is this Upper Old Town? Unlike some of the things we've looked at on Cannery Row or other places, I'm not sure it's even a vernacular. It's just a box.
I just want to make a quick comment about the historic preservation report. I found very thorough. So whoever did it, I think they did a really good job compared to some of the ones we've seen in recent past. So Kathy, do you have anything?
It's a lovely area. I ride my bike up there, and it's very quiet. And I'm so glad you have such an interest in it, Angela. So good luck.
Julie?
And nothing else to add.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation for removing 1221 Roosevelt Street from the it's not the potentially historic, what
From the Upper Old Town Reconnaissance Survey.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments or discussion? New, okay? So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And the results of the vote, the resolution may be appealed within 10 days. Very good. Thank you.
To the planning commission, and applications can be found in the planning office.
Okay, thanks. So congratulations, Ms. DePava. I hope I'm saying that right. And good luck with your house. Okay. All right, next we have commission comments. Any general commission comments? Nope.
I have a question.
Merry Christmas, everybody. And it's nice to see all the lights and the Christmas tree up and all the festive things the city does. And even though I couldn't go, thank you for the city party for the commissioners and other people. It was lovely, I'm sure, as it always is. And I really look forward to it. I was sorry I couldn't make it.
It was a lovely party. Who was there besides myself? I know you folks were. But any other commissioner? I think I was. Oh, you were, Julie?
Yeah.
Did I say hi to you?
No,
Did I miss-
you ignored me.
I apologize.
One nice thing,
I didn't see
if
it.
people are listening
was
online, I
there,
don't
but
know
I
if
didn't
they are. Nobody's here, but we start Christmas in the Adobes and the city participates with their historic buildings as well as state parks and many different private holders of a variety of historic and Adobe properties. So it's a lot of fun to go and I hope you all get to go sometime and maybe this will be the year.
Do you want to mention to the viewers when that is, Friday and Saturday?
Friday and Saturday, it's really
Makes
fun
sense.
to go to. So I encourage everybody to participate.
It's cold.
Well, it'll be a little chilly, take coats, but it's fun.
Julie, did you have a question?
Just a question. Is the moratorium on Mills Act applications over? Is it done?
Correct. That ran out. We are still preparing finalizing the fiscal analysis, but the moratorium, we are accepting applications for Mills Act contracts. That was a 1 year, pause on the program as far as taking in applications. So we are finalizing the fiscal analysis that was prepared for that, and we'll be bringing that before this commission. And then if there's any recommended policy changes to the Mills Act program or just even updates, the program was quite old. I think originally came into 2000. So that'll be brought forward as well to this commission before going forward.
At this time, what is the cost of getting a Mills Act application to
Oh,
the
yeah,
city?
like 4,000 or something.
I don't have the exact number, but I can look it up right now.
Yeah, we can look that up.
Any other commissioner comments or announcements? While you're looking that up, can we have the informal staff reports? Or do you want us to wait?
All right. We don't have any tentative items scheduled for the January 9th HPC meeting. And the upcoming historical cultural events that Spencer put together is ice skating by the bay at the Custom House Plaza daily through January 5th, but closed December 12th. Christmas in the Adobes, as Geraldine mentioned, December 13th and 14th from 5 to 9 p.m. Winter service project at the Monterey Public Library, Saturday, December 14th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And First Night Monterey, December 31st, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Do we know what the winter service project is?
I can click into it and find out.
Off the top of my head, I do not, but if you look at the packet, there should be links available.
Oh, it says
There.
Or I can go to the library website. I mean, it's.
yes.
That's where that comes.
That's if you open the agenda packet and there's a PDF link, you can
Okay.
click on it, and then it says design a wood ornament or coaster, sew an angel ornament.
That's right, for the 3 levels of angels.
Share the joy of the season with those who may be homebound during the holidays. Projects will be delivered to residents at local retirement facilities.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you have an amount for the?
I do. So there's two different application types. So if there's the Mills Act contract for a property that already has historic zoning. So that costs $3,235. And then there's a Mills Act application for a property that does not have historic zoning and is also requesting historic zoning. And that amount is $4,383.
Do they also have to pay for an evaluation or a report?
If it has not been previously analyzed, that's correct.
How much does that cost?
That varies depending on who is hired and the extensiveness of the survey and the property that's being surveyed.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 5:50.